Good morning. I hope we can start now. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Uh, Today, I think we can finish this lecture series. I will do some very important, I will discuss some very important topics with you. The first one is troubleshooting. The second one is about failure analysis. I will discuss both with you, and I hope you will get a very good picture about these two lectures after concluding. Okay, then we have already discussed some designing parts. I will show you at the end of this lecture how to do it, how to perform those things using Minitab like statistical software. So I hope today you can practice it after finish this lecture series. So anyway, I think these two lectures are very important rather than having some other theory parts. So today I will explain how to conduct troubleshooting and failure analysis. So in this slide, I think I'm not going to read all the slides, so you can read because these all slides are very easy to read and understand. So here you know why we need troubleshooting. So it is actually to improve our business. So if we have some troubles, you know what happened to our business and also the reputation of our company. The very good example is aflatoxin in coconut oil. Then what happened to those companies? You could see some advertisements and in media advertisement and Facebook like social medias, they have published the brand names also. So it will badly affect from us. So therefore, it is very critical to handle our troubles in a scientific way. So troubleshooting as a task that deals with problem solving skills. So we all have problem solving skills, but how to manage those things in a scientific way, that's what we need to identify. And we can use these things, computer programming, engineering, biology, medicine, and like several disciplines we can use. But anyway, almost all these concepts are being used in probably used in engineering, but we can apply those techniques in food processing as well. So there are two steps in troubleshooting. First, we need to gather information, as we discussed in other new product development procedures as well. So information is very critical and very important, and also how to collect the updated up-to-date information and correct trustful information we have to collect. Then the second step is to eliminate unnecessary components in the system and verify the issue. So we all know there are some, when we consider even our social experience, some regarding your friend, what is told to by he or she, then our friend he may told a different story, but the problem is a very simple thing. So what we need to is, first thing is to gather information, then eliminate unnecessary components. When it comes to a food processing industry or company or factory, there are some unnecessary parts. So and there may have some necessary parts. So we sometimes we use unnecessary parts rather than having a necessary part. So we have to identify what are the necessary parts and unnecessary parts. So if there are some unnecessary parts, so what we have to do is remove those things from the system. Then we can correct it uh, quickly. And in this diagram also you can see how to define troubles, and there are two ways. So basically we use the ideal path is this one. First, define the problem, then examine the situation, consider the causes, consider the solution, act and test. Then after implementation also we have to review the troubles. So this is basically we follow this diagram. It is very easy to understand, but we will discuss some scientific parts. Time series analysis we use, most commonly we use time series analysis, a type of graphical representations and analysis method we basically use in most troubleshooting activities. You can see a very good example here, our heart rate, how to measure it. We have a machine called, equipment called ECG, then we can get a print after evaluating and after measuring our heart behavior. So it is also a time series analysis. Likewise, we can collect data for a particular time period and then plot the graph. A time series is a sequential set of data points measured typically over successive times. So we know the time, so the particular time we are going to analyze the data. Then we can represent it using a time series analysis graph. So there are 4 types of graphs. We will discuss one by one later. So when we consider time series analysis, the most commonly the trend analysis. This graph you can see trend, and seasonal variations are there, and cyclical variations are also commonly used in food processing, and irregular variation. When we consider Sri Lankan situation, we have lots of examples for irregular variation. We will discuss one by one later. So the behavior of time series analysis is maybe increase or maybe decrease or stagnate over a long period. Increasing, you know what is the meaning of increasing and decreasing, and stagnate means it is remained a constant for a long time period. There are different types of time series analysis we can draw, we can plot, and based on our requirement. When it comes to seasonal variation, here you can see this example, and nowadays I think the watermelon are very commonly available. The price per kilo is around 50 rupees, but for off-season time, the price is more than 100 rupees. So that is actually belongs to a seasonal variation. Seasonal variation time series are fluctuation within a year. We can consider the price or a cultivation or harvest within a year. And the another example is sales of ice cream increase in summer. In summertime, we know the ice cream sale is high, but in these days, the rain, we have rain for most all the countries, so then we are not going to eat ice cream probably. So therefore, in these days, the sales of ice cream is not much. So this example, sales of ice cream increase in summer, but sales of woolen clothes increase in winter. Likewise, we have some seasonal variation. This is an example again, fresh tomato price. I have taken from New Zealand statistics. You can see the June to July months from 2006 to 30, how it has been fluctuated. So you can understand the seasonal variation, right? Seasonal variation is there. You can see some very similar places in this diagram. It means the seasonal variation in all the, when we consider entire year or 2 years time period or 6 months time period or 2 months, you can decide the time, and we are going to analyze the characteristics. Right, some here also you can see some cyclical variation, how it happens. Likewise, there are some cyclic shapes. Then irregular or random variation. There are some irregular variations. So most probably we have irregular variations or random variations are there due to several deviations, maybe environmental deviations, or some political deviations are also there. Sometimes in your food processing industry, the product manager maybe changed, then they have implemented different processing steps. So therefore, as a result of that, finally you can get different diagrams, different time series analysis diagrams. So you can analyze the data and you can analyze the situation. I give this example. You can see due to the political nature of the country and also the situation of in the entire world, you can see the exchange rate of Sri Lankan rupee, how it changed from 2010 to 20. You can see it is actually an irregular or random variation is there. So when you analyze the data in your food company or your own company, or if you are designing something, so you need to identify the difference in between these time series analysis. And basically we use time series analysis for different applications. Actually, you can see some process and quality control parameters. We will discuss in next year how to use it for quality control and process control, as we discussed in the previous slide. So we can analyze the weight of the sample within a year, or we can analyze the sales percentage and processing conditions, or maybe the temperature likewise. And economic forecasting, we can use sales forecasting, budgetary analysis, stock market analysis, yield projections. It is important. Sometimes you are going to develop a source manufacturing plant, so then you need to identify the raw material availability during the year, or maybe the different geographical areas we are going to purchase tomatoes or maybe mangoes. So we need to have a good idea, good picture about the yield, from which month we can get raw material in this particular price. So likewise, yield protections and inventory studies, workload projections, utility studies, sensors. So we can use the time series analysis for these applications. And trend analysis. Trend analysis is very important. I'm going to discuss the trend analysis in detail here. So trend means the word, you know the meaning of trend. So trend analysis means analysis of the trend. So here also we consider a time period, and here we use long time period, right? Detect general pattern of relationship between associate factors, project the future direction. It means basically in trend analysis, we can consider the behavior of data. I'll give some examples here. So in the first picture, you can see world populations. Then here from 1950 to 2050, how these diagrams are came here. So how they have designed these diagrams. Then what happened? Now we are in 2000, 2001. So what we are doing, basically we are doing analyze the previous data. In these days, you can see some COVID statistics. They predict that in mid of next month, the COVID suspects will be 1 million. And this much of deaths will report within this year. Likewise, they analyze and they show some diagrams for us. You can see in these days, it's a common one. So it is actually a type of trend analysis. So there are different ways to analyze trend. Then what we have to do is analyze previous results and data, and analyze the factors related to those data. Then statistically we can do it, and there are some examples: world population and global fast food market trend analysis from 2020 to 27. So you can see how it has increased, and 2027 you can see there is a lag, right? There's a decreasement. So they have used some previous data and some factors, some previous, current and future factors when determining the trend. Then the moving average is important when we are when we develop trend analysis, how to conduct trend analysis using moving average. Then let's move to this example. You can see the years, maybe 2020 to 2040 or 2000 to 2020. Then variables are there. Then we are going to calculate the moving average. Then if it is a 3-year moving average, when we are going, if we can calculate 3-year moving average, 4-year, 5-year, likewise we can calculate the moving averages. So how to calculate it? First, we have to get the sum of these 3 years. But there are some important factors before conducting. We have to use consecutive data, right? we can't use y1, y3 and y4. So consecutive data we have to use for in analyzing moving average. So for these three figures we can calculate the moving average. First we have to get the sum of these three data, and to get the average, we have to divide it by 3. Then we can get these 3 years. Likewise, y2, y3, y4 divide by 3. This is the moving average 2 for these 3 years. Then this is the equation. You need not to remember these things. I think we can discuss the next example. Here you can see how the moving average differs from each other. And this is one example related to food industry. You can see the year and market size for global tea beverage production, and how to calculate the moving average. Here you can see. So production of milk powder from 2005 to 2017. How to calculate the moving average? You can see from 2010 the production is 390 tons, 17 510 tons. So 3-year moving average means you have to get these consecutive 3 data and get the sum of these data and divide it by 3. Then for example, in 390 plus 380 plus 460, the total is around 100. Total is 100 to 1230. Then divided into 3, then the moving average for these 3 years is around 410. Likewise, you can calculate. Then in this diagram, you can see the moving average for these years. Right? I will explain how to do it using Minitab. This is the graph. And for 5-year moving average, please pay your attention for this one. This is very important. Then this is about some data obtained from Black Tea Manufacturing Company. You can see we have considered 3 weeks, and there are 5 working days for this particular company. They normally work from Monday to Friday. You can see Monday to Friday for 3 weeks. We get the data about their production, total production. You can see the Monday their production is 190 kilograms, and Tuesday it differs. Wednesday 200. For Monday and Friday you can see some there are some decreasements, but the highest for Tuesday. Then to analyze this trend and to determine the behavior of this data, we can analyze its moving average for 5 days, because there are 5 days. Then we have to analyze it for 5 days. Then the first one, 1, 2, 3, the green color one, you can see the first 5 days, the moving volume is 1010. Then how to get the moving average? It divide by 5. Then the value is 202. Then for next 2 days, starting from Tuesday, you can see brown color. Then the total is 1070. Divide by 5. Then you can get the 5-day moving average. Right? Likewise, you can calculate the moving average from here to here. Right? Then we can calculate the seasonal fluctuations. Seasonal fluctuations is the difference of production. This is the average, but how it has been, what is the actual behavior, and we can get the data. Then how to get it from? You can use the 5-day moving average data and minus production, actual production. Then how to get the seasonal fluctuation? E minus C. Then the moving average is 202. Then sorry, C minus C. Okay. Here it should be C minus E, not E minus C. Then 190 reduce 202. Then it's minus 8. Then sorry. It's correct. E minus C. Okay. but we have to calculate from here to here, right? Then you can see the weekdays production moving average is there. Then E minus C 2002, so 202 reduced 1010. Then the value is minus 8. 214 minus 200, then the value is plus 14. 208, 8, 180, value is 28. Likewise, you can get the seasonal fluctuation. I think it's clear. Then nothing very complex one here. Production, moving volume, moving average, and seasonal fluctuation. How to get it from F equals E minus C, right? Then we have that data. And we can draw this diagram, this graph using Minitab. I will show you how to do it. And in blue color, you can see the average product, the production value, actual production. But in brown color, you can see the moving average. It means how it behaves from within this entire time period, right? Then again, we are going to analyze the seasonal adjusted average seasonal variation. Now we know how to analyze the moving average and seasonal fluctuation. Then we are going to analyze the adjusted average seasonal variation. Then you can see the data we have obtained from here, the seasonal fluctuation values from Wednesday, you can see it is minus 8, Thursday plus 14. Likewise, you can see Wednesday minus 8, Thursday plus 14, Friday plus 28. Likewise, for 3 weeks, you can see the data, right? You can see the seasonal fluctuation data for the entire time period. You can see here. Then we can't analyze by using 3, 4 data. Then we have to get the average value. You know how to get the average. Get the sum of these value and divided by 2 here. 4 plus 2, 6. Then divided by 2, you know the result is 3. Then here there are 3 readings. So get the average value for these 3 values and divided it by 3. Likewise, this is the average value, right? I think it's clear. First, you have to get the average value. Here we are going to get the adjusted average seasonal variation in terms of predict and analyze the, in terms of analyze the data and how it has changed within this selected time period. So the term is called as adjusted average seasonal variation. To get it, first we have to get the seasonal fluctuation values and get their average values. And when we get the sum of these values, to get the sum of this value, we call it as difference. Sum of average is 18. It can be values take sum of average. Here you know the average, then sum of average means the summation of the sum of these values, and the difference mean it divided by 5. There are 5 columns, then 3.6 is the difference value. I think it's clear how to get the average and how to get the sum of average. To get the sum of these values, minus 38 plus 3 plus minus 7 plus 7 plus 46.5. Then divided number of data. How many number of data? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 5. Then 3.6 we call as the difference here, right? Then average seasonal fluctuation is there, and adjusted, how to get the adjusted average seasonal variation, seasonal fluctuation minus difference. So we know this value minus 38.5 and we reduce it from 3.6. So adjusted average seasonal variation එක ගන්නේ average seasonal fluctuation එකෙන් difference එක අඩු කරලා. එතකොට ඍණ 30.5 අඩු කරනවා 3.6ක්, then you know the value is 42.1. Here also plus 3 minus 3.6, the value is 0.6. Likewise, you can get the adjusted average seasonal variation. So you don't remember this table, and you just wanted to remember what are the terms, how to get average seasonal fluctuation, how to get adjusted average seasonal variation. So adjusted average seasonal variation means here then we can predict the values should be there. In this diagram, in this table, you can't see the values for these two columns and here also. When we consider the moving average, you can't see the data here. You can't get the data here. But here we are going to get the predicted data by analyzing the average, adjusted average seasonal variation is here. So you can understand the adjusted value which should be there to get this appropriate value, right? එතකොට මේ production එක ගන්න නම් තියෙන්න ඕන actual values we have already calculated, right? In this diagram you can see the blue color actual production, in this orange color adjusted average seasonal variation, this one, and adjusted production. So this is the adjusted production value should be there to get this amount. It means when it comes to an industrial food processing industry, so to produce this type of amount, to develop this type of amount, the production, to get the ultimately to get this production, we need to adjust the entire production as we calculated here. එතකොට අපිට හරියටම මේ values, අපිට ආපු values, we know what are the values, actual production values. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ amount එක හරියට ගන්න නම් අපි daily කොච්චර කරන්න ඕනද? Adjusted production value එක we can calculate here. So then we know how many kilos we have to produce per day, right? This is one example. You can analyze these values and you can use these calculations in different applications, but here I just wanted to explain how we are going to calculate these things. Okay, so it's over. Then I will show you how to do it using Minitab. I think you are familiar with Minitab. Here you can see the Minitab. Then first you have to copy this data. Then the data here, copy to this data. And paste here. You can see the values. Here you can see the values. Okay. Then you can see time series, right? You can see time series here. Stat, time series, then moving average. I think it's clear. Then we are going to analyze the moving average, where we have variables in C1 column and moving average. So we can calculate 5 days moving average. So therefore, here we have to select the moving length as 5. Clear? Right? These are the values. Then we calculate the moving average manually, but here we are going to use the Minitab software, statistical software. Then first we have to copy this data to the Minitab worksheet, and then go to the stat and select the stat, time series and moving average. Then select the variable here, C1, select, and moving length. Here we are going to analyze the 5 days moving average. So we have to select 5 and then okay, right? Now you can see the diagram. In blue color, you can see the actual values, and in brown color, you can see the moving average. First one is 202. Then our case also, I will show you the first one. This is the one we have calculated manually. You can see the average value 202. Right, the first one 202. The second one we have. Second one is 240. Right, here also you can see. The third one 210. So then we can go 210. 208. 208. Okay. Then you can see likewise how it differs. The first one you can see it's 202, 214, 208. Likewise, it has differed. So this is how to get seasonal, moving average by using Minitab statistical software. I think it's clear. Now you can you can plot these pictures. And what is the ultimate target of using this type of analysis? To analyze the trend and actual production. So now I think it's clear how to get the how to analyze the trouble. So I think now I can stop this one and we can read all these slides. If you have any question or problem, you can ask me. Okay. Then we have discussed in this lecture how to shoot the troubles horizon. These are the definitions and some important things. Then there are our first steps, gathering information and eliminate unnecessary things. And we have discussed the process to conduct it. It is very easy. And under the time series analysis, it is critical to select a successive or pre-selected time series. And there are 4 ways to present time series analysis. Trend analysis, we have discussed. We have to analyze the previous data and the factors affecting, and by using these experiences and example, then we can predict some future data, as we are doing for COVID. And seasonal variation, as an example, tomato price, or maybe watermelon price in Sri Lanka. And some cyclical variation we have discussed. It is belongs to some economical dollar rate, like some not for LKR exchange rate. It is under regular variation. So there are some cyclical variations like as mentioned here, right? So these are the equations to calculate. You don't try to remember. I'm not going to ask these things. And how to what are the applications. And then we discuss about trend analysis. And here you can see examples. And then the moving average is very important. Then how to get it, how to get the moving average. The very important thing is to select consecutive data, right? Then you can, I think now you can calculate moving average, and then the seasonal fluctuations, why we need to calculate seasonal fluctuation and how to calculate it and how to draw it, how to do it using Minitab. Then how to get the sum of average seasonal fluctuations and adjusted average seasonal fluctuations. Then ultimately you can get the adjusted values, adjusted production value, or maybe adjusted process conditions, adjusted processing conditions. Likewise, based on your application, you can select it and plot the diagrams and analyze these things. I think you can use the thing you have obtained from these lectures practically when you are working in an industry. So shall we move to the another part? This is also very important. it is about failure analysis. The previous one we have discussed also how to shoot the troubles, but here we are going to analyze the failures. Then troubleshooting and failure analysis, what are the difference in between these two? In failure analysis, we are going to analyze it after a failure, or maybe you can identify before failure. In troubles also, troubleshooting we can do before it happens. In here, you can see some examples. This is one very famous example in Sri Lanka, Umayo project. And you may have you may heard about this story, what happened to it, and we have developed all these things, and finally there were very critical issues in those areas. So therefore, failure analysis is important in all industries, right? Failure analysis are very critical. You can read these statements and quotes. The failure is the basis for all scientific and engineering achievements. It is, I think you are aware about this one, and it is very common, and basically we use it. And failure is the inability of a component, machine, or a process to function it properly. Failure එකක් කියන්නේ it is not actually a function as usual. ඒක හරි විදිහට වැඩ වෙන්නේ නැතුනම we call it as a failure, right? Then types of failures happen in the food industry. The shape and size. There are some failures in shape and size, and some individual parts. So when we consider extruder, there are different parts. So there's a heating system, there is a extrusion part, the barrel is there, so motor is there. So maybe the entire machine fault, or maybe a individual failure of an individual part. Maybe the motor is not working, but the extruder is working. But sometimes our refrigerator is working, the condenser is not working, right? There are different failures, type of failures. And during the process line, when we consider process line, maybe a bottled water processing line, then first we have to purify it and then fill it. Sometimes some failures are happening during the entire process line. The entire process line is not working, right? Then when we consider about food processing industry, we know it is very, very sensitive. There, because most probably foods are highly perishable. It means it will deteriorate soon. Therefore, the failure analysis is very critical. එතකොට අපිට පස්සේ හිත ඉන්න වෙලාවක් නැහැ failures ගැන, because it will take around maybe few minutes to deteriorate. නරක වෙන පොඩි වෙලාවක් යන. So it is necessary to define possible failures and relevant preventive methods to overcome. And why failure analysis is important? To assure the safety and reliability and for the better performance of the industry. And in an economical background also, we need to identify failures before starting a company or before starting the process line. Or maybe we can do it after starting, after detect a fault. This is actually the very, you know, the Wright brothers, they have developed the flight, and how failure analysis came out. Then this is the situation, and this is the incident. They have developed their self-propelled flight, and it has there was a damage, and there was a failure. So in 1908, they have introduced the failure analysis method, right? You can read this story here, and pictures are available. There are several methods are being discussed in terms of failure analysis, but in food processing industry, I think there are three major methods. You know, fishbone diagram, we call it as Ishikawa diagram. It is one important one. And FMEA, failure modes and effects analysis, it's commonly used. And fault tree analysis also commonly used in failure analysis in food processing industry. The ultimate objective is to determine the root cause of failures. These are the objectives of conducting failure analysis. Why do we need to analyze failures? Product development and process development. to prevent product malfunctions, ensure product life, prevent safety hazards likewise. It is very important to identify failures and failure analysis. And process development also is important to ensure the quality and reliability and customer, to prevent customer dissatisfaction. It means the retain the customer satisfaction. It is the ultimate objective of food processing industry. So therefore we have to ensure it, right? Then here you can see some examples for failure analysis. There are different standard methods are being used, but we discuss only these two methods, FTA and FMEA, because the Ishikawa diagram, we normally discuss it with quality. So you can study it in next year, but it is actually a very simple one. You can read, if you are interested, you can read these things. When it comes to failure modes and effect analysis, this is, I think, very important one. Here we are going to analyze the potential failures, risks within the system, and classify them according to severity and likelihood. It means, I think you are aware about HACCP, hazard analysis and critical control point. In that one also we are using these two scientific terms, severity and likelihood of occurrence. So severity, what is the severity? Severe. If it is a severe, you know that the COVID is a severe case. But muscle pain is not severe. Muscle pain. And likelihood of occurrence, we call it as likelihood of occurrence. You can capture a frequency, in another term, frequency, right? We are going to analyze these things. I will explain it with the details. In this system, help to identify failures of system with the least cost, very low cost, right? Now how to use it and benefits it, you can read. I am going to explain. There are 5 steps. In the first step, you can identify the potential failures and effects. In all these systems, I think, I suppose you can remember the systems we have discussed inside in this lecture series. So for all these things, there is one common thing. The first, you have to identify the environment, to get the data, to collect the information. It is critical. So this is not for the food processing industry, but in our the social conditions, general conditions, if we have a problem, so we have to identify the environment. Its environment is very important. Then yesterday we had a story. We had the black fungus patient in Ampara. I think you are aware about that one. Yesterday in social medias and some electronic medias also, they reported that we had black fungus patient is detected from Ampara. Then what happened in the evening? In the morning, the message was circulated everywhere, but the evening, what happened? They have collected the information. Then what happened? Actually, there is no patient. There is no problem actually. So likewise, the environmental analysis and identify the potential failures and effects. So get the data is very critical in new food product development. Right? Rather than having book chapters, rather than reading books, rather than getting ideas from somebody, it's very critical to analyze the environment and information. The information should be correct, accurate, and up to date. We can't use the data obtained in 1960. So we need to check its reliability. And the second step is to determine its severity. Severity is important, right? How it can harm for us, how this one harm for our business, for this process, for our product. Then we call it as severity. We will discuss with some examples. And gauge likelihood of occurrence. It means frequency or probability of occurrence, right? Then failure detection risk probability number, RPN number. I will explain how to calculate it and determine the action to reduce the risk of failure. This is the process of conducting failure modes and we call as effects analysis, right? There are 5 steps. I think it's clear now. Then step by step we will discuss, identify the potential failures. There are some failures. So list all failure modes per function in technical terms. There are some failure modes, right? So we have to analyze them and list out it, right? Examples of failure effects include overheating is there, noise is there, abnormal shutdown, user injury and abnormal color may be there, some oxidation reactions are there. So likewise, identify the failure modes. And there are some failure modes you can, there are some examples for failure modes. You can read it in correct, okay, right, okay. Then determine the severity. This is very critical, how to determine the severity. Basically, you can use, sometimes we can use our experience, past experience or modern data, or basically we use brainstorming to determine its severity. Severity is the seriousness of failure, consequences of failure effects. Usual practice rates failure effects severity on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the lowest severity and 10 is the highest. Here, basically, we rate the severity. The term is S. We use for severity, capital S. Here you can see, if it is a grade 1, rate 1 severity, there is no effect or no danger. If it is rate 2-1, there are very minor effects, usually noticed only by discriminating or very observant users. 3, minor, only minor parts. 4 to 6, moderate. 7 to 8, high. And 9 to 10, when it comes to 9 or 10, it is actually very high severe product, may cause injury or death sometimes, right? Sometimes our customers or somebody may death. There are some fatalities, possible fatalities. So if it is a 9-10 level 1, we have to pay our attention very well. But others also we have to pay our attention, but it is when it is a grade 1 or 2, it is a minor actually. So we need to consider the highest severity cases first. We should give them priority. As we discussed, the gauge likelihood of occurrence of frequency, examine cause of each failure mode and how often failure occurs. Then we can use our reports. All potential failures causes should be identified and documented in the technical terms, right? Failure causes are often indicative of weaknesses in the design. So what we have to do is, in basically in processing industries, processing companies, we are maintaining books, we are maintaining records for failures, right? Then we can go for those records and analyze its frequency during this this year, during 2020 or 2021. How many cases reported, how many similar cases reported? As an example, for breakdown of filling machine, then how many breakdowns are there? So if we have 10 or 20 or 30 cases, it means the occurrence is high. Likelihood of occurrence is high. If there are only one case or no cases reported in the records, so it basically it is the occurrence is very low. So we use O as the term. Then here also we can rate it 1 to 10. If the rate is 1, no documented failures, right? There is actually no document, so no records. 2 to 3, relatively few failures. 4 to 6, moderate, occasional. 7 to 8, high, repeated failures. As I mentioned earlier, there are some repeated failures. The power cuts, how many power cuts per year? How many power failures per month? So if there are 7 to 8 or there are 15 times per year, it is actually a repeated failure. Right, 9 to 10 very high, and if it's 9 to 8 very high, it's hazardous. So we have to consider it critically. So likewise, I think it's clear now. You can gauge the likelihood of occurrence from 1 to 10. So how to use this rating based on your idea? So you can develop your own standards, right? So මේක දෙක කියනවා ඔයගොල්ලෝ develop කරගන්න පුළුවන් based on your industry. Then failure detection. The fourth step is failure detection, right? This is also similar to the step 2 and 3. Then after remedial actions are determined, they should be tested for efficacy and efficiency. Efficacy means the niravadde, whether it is how reliability is there. Also, the design should be verified and inspected, inspection procedures specified, right? Design should be verified. Technologists inspect current system controls that prevent failure mode occurrence or detect failures before they impact to the user or customer, right? Before go to the customer level, we have to identify techniques used to similar product systems. Okay, I will explain with some examples. So detection, then each combination of the steps 1 and 2 is assigned a detection value. D is the detection value, which indicates how likely it is that failure will be detected, right? We have identified the failure, we know the its frequency, everything, severity, we know everything, but how to detect it, right? The ranks and rank the ability of identified actions to remedy or remove defects or detect failure. The highest the value of D, the more likely the failure will not be detected. If D is higher, then it is actually not detected, right? Here you can see how it differs. If detection rate is high, fault will be passed undetected to the user, right? If the detection level is 1, we can detect it. Or then if it is high, so we can't detect it, then without detect, the fault is there. It go to the customer directly, right? Then this is how to get the RPN number, S multiplied by O multiplied by D. This is actually the RPN number. It means multiply all these factors together. Detection value, occurrence, and severity. We can multiply these 3 things together. Then highest RPN should get highest priority for corrective measures, as we discussed earlier. If it is high risk, 1, we need to pay our attention well. Here you can see one example, ATM pin authentication, right? Then unauthorized access, they can card access karnawa. Then severity is very high, it's around 8. Then frequencies 3, it is not always happening. Unauthorized access is, it is not always happening, so frequencies occurrence is low. But detection level, it is again 3. Then the RPN value is 8 into 3, 24, then into 3, 72, right? Then they have identified different failures, potential failures, failure modes with respect to their process, with respect to their company, with respect to their objective. So they have identified, and what we have to do is calculate the severity, occurrence, and detection level, and finally the RPN number. If the RPN number is higher, then we have to pay our attention first for these things, right? If it is lower, in here you can see the 48 is the lowest one, so we have to consider it. We have to consider the 196 one first, then 48 one is last. So the RPN number is very important. In this example, this is related to food processing. The bottling, this is the process, and there are potential failures. Broken glass in a bottle, insufficient seal, and double seal. Then severity, what happened? Broken glass in a bottle, its severity is very high. Someone may kill after consuming this one. So severity is 10. Occurrence is very low. It is not always happen. Then detection, if we have sensors, if we have good staff, if we have procedures, then we can detect. But with respect to the process of this company, the detection is around 3, right? Detection is very good here, ne? Somewhat good, not it's higher. If it is higher, it is bad. Here you can see it is 3, it's good. Then 10 multiplied by 2, 20 into 3, 60. The second one, insufficient seal. The severity is low. Seal එක මදි වුණා කියලා මිනිස්සු මැරෙන්නේ නැහැ. The severity is low. Occurrence is 5. It is somewhat higher than this one. Detection, here also they have good detection technique. So the value is 40. Then double label. Sometimes you can see double labels instead of single label. Then customer complaints may be there. The severity, again, label there තිබ්බ කියලා කවුරුත් මැරෙන්නේ නැහැ. Risk is low. Occurrence is around 4. And detection, here you can see they don't have good techniques to detect it. Then the detection level is high. It means there is a risk. So you can see the RPN number is 64. So out of these 3 techniques, first you have to consider the third one, because the RPN number is high here. Then if this one is severe, according to these numbers, you can see the severity is very high in this one, but we are going to consider it after considering the third part, right? So මුලින්ම මෙතනදී risk RPN number එකයි බලන්නේ. ඒතර high RPN number එක තියෙන එක තමයි මුලින් අපි විසඳලා ඉන්න ඕනේ. In sorry, අපි දැන් මේව follow කරන්නේ නැතුව කිව්වොත් අපි මුලින් විසඳන්න යන්නේ සමහරවිට පළවෙනි එක වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So therefore we have to follow the scientific methods always. So I think it's clear how to get it, how to do it. Then this is about sorting, cleaning, breaking, mixing, frying and wrapping, about, and I think omelette making, egg frying. Then the sorting severities there. Then likewise you can complete this diagram, this table. You better to complete this table based on your experience. I have given some example here. Then you also can do it yourself, right? How to do it? 8 into 6 into 6. The RPN number is very high here, right? Likewise you can calculate for each steps, right? Then the failure modes and effects analysis is over. I think you have a good idea about this one and how to do it. Then you can use this diagram in all your failures. Before it happens, you have to identify and apply these techniques to solve these matters scientifically. And how many steps there are? There were 5 steps. And first you have to identify the failure modes, then determine severity and gauge the likelihood of occurrence, and then detection, failure detection rate, and then the RPN number, right? So all about the fault tree, about the failure modes and effects analysis. I think it's clear. Are there any questions? Always you don't have, eh? Right? Then last part of this, this is actually the last part of this course module, fault tree analysis, right? Then this is the second step. We have discussed there were around 10 scientific methods are available to identify, so to check the failures. But here we have discussed one thing, and this is the second one, fault tree analysis, right? This is about the history, and you can identify the originated from the aerospace industry. The fault tree analysis, first they've used the fault tree analysis in aerospace industry, then used for nuclear power plant industry, but now we are using in food processing industry as well. So these things actually are very famous methods in analyzing failures. These are the applications to identify the cause of a failure, monitor it, identify it. Here, this is actually a pictorial one. Right, here you can see how to draw the fault tree analysis. Right, we use basically we use some what do you call the pictures. Right, there are standard pictures. You can see these things here. This one for basic event, external event, undeveloped. Likewise, you can use these diagrams, these pictures of representations, and there we are using some gates. You know the logical gates, and no, or likewise there are some gates, and means I think you are aware about these gates. In your first year, you know the gates, right? And gate you know the inputs. Both inputs should be there to get the output as a one. Or gate, if you get there are two inputs, either you have one input, you can get output, right? These are the symbols used in fault tree analysis. Then you can use these pictures together scientifically to draw the fault trees, right? Here I use one example, right? There is the exposure, right? Exposure is there. So here you can see AND gate. So all these factors affect together for exposure. The first one is pressure is too high. If it is this mark, but for what? This one for basic event, you can see is actually basic event. Relief value 1 does not open. Relief valve 1 does not open. Square means intermediate event, right? This is actually intermediate event. The relief valve 2 does not open. These are the factors. Then there are some other factors like a tree. Then ultimately you can identify the causes for this failure, right? Then you need not to remember each logo and each symbols, but you just want, but I just wanted to explain how to do it, right? As did it here. Then you better to use these symbols and develop a method, develop a diagram. Okay, I'll give you one assignment regarding this one. Then you can develop your own fault tree for the fault. Then you can get a good idea and you can practice it yourself. Okay, this is example for off flavor fried chicken. You can develop it by using these diagrams, symbols. Then I think if you have 28 people in your batch, the 28 fault trees are not similar. It is actually depends on your knowledge, your experience, and the method you are going to brainstorm, your experience, everything. The fault trees are dependent, but you can get a very similar fault trees. Okay, right. Then these are the advantages, and so you can read. Anyway, so I'm going to finish this lecture series. So these are the things we discuss within this course module: introduction to new product development procedure, and then we discuss some sampling methods and how to calculate the desired marginal error. It is important how to calculate it. We have done some examples and surveys. We have discussed how to plan a questionnaire and how to do how to make questions and online platforms. We did some practical. We did it practically using some very common platforms and statistical designs. What are the factorial designs and orthogonal designs? The difference in between these two designs and what is why do we need to use this method and Taguchi's design. So you can use these designs together, and statistical food product designing and color measurement, I think we have discussed, and troubleshooting and failure analysis. All these things we have discussed up to some extent. So I think you can read, you should have practical knowledge on these things, right? Actually, this is a very big area, but I have summarized some areas and given very important things with you, shared with some important things with you. Then these are the assignments, and I will give you some assignments. Okay, I think it's over, but I will show you some examples to do these things using Minitab software. So I think the Minitab is very commonly used software. So then you need not to remember these things. You can just can just use this type of statistical software to analyze. Right. If you have questions, you can ask until I explain these things. Or if you have suggestions, also you can give. And then after, you better to go through these things carefully and point out some. If you, I think you definitely you should have some questions. So you have to highlight these things, and I will do 1 or 2 hour brief before your exams again. Then you can ask these things, right? I think this course module is very important until you not only for your exams is very important. Okay, right. Then in Minitab, you can see in first you have to get a new sheet. Then there is a icon for stat. Then you can see DOE, design of experiment, DOE. Under design of experiment, you can see factorial designs, response surface design, mixture designs, and Taguchi designs. Right? Then you can use all these things. You can do, as an example, factorial design. Right? Then you can see this diagram, 2-level factors, 2-level. There are some other methods as well. So I will use 2-level factorial design. Then in this software, you can use 2 to 15 factors. Then number of factors, maybe 3, maybe 2, and I will use 3. And designs, full factorial design, no, half fractional factorial design. We discuss all these things, right? Then you can get it. Likewise, here you can see how to design it. Okay. How many factors, how many runs, how many blocks, and interactions you can see. So you can do it here. Here you can see here. But make it බලාගන්න පුළුවන් මේ කොහොමද අපි use කරන්නේ කියලා, right? Then I'll do it. The next one, stat, design of experiment, factorial design, create design, 2-level. You can use 2 factors, then design, full factorial design. Then you can see how it happens. A and B. There are 2 factors at 2 levels, right? How to get this design. Or if it is a right, then stat, design of experiment, Taguchi's design, then create Taguchi's design. Right, here you can see again there are 3-level design, 3-level, 2, 3, 4, 5 level you can see. Then we can use 2 how many factors we can, maybe 2 factors, 3 levels. Okay, then designs, Taguchi L9 design, Taguchi L27 design. Then when it comes to L9, you can see the design, right? There are 2 factors at 3 levels, so you have to do 9 trials in order to Taguchi's design. And you can develop, design your experiment here, right? That design of experiment. Then mixture designs are available. You can try these things later. And there are different Taguchi's design. Can you remember Taguchi's L8 design? Here you can see Taguchi's L8 design. How many factors? 3 factors at 2 levels. Then you can get Taguchi's L8 design. This is Taguchi's L8 design, right? There are 3 raw materials at 3 levels, 2 levels, sorry, right? And if you are going to develop a ginger, lemon, and cinnamon based beverage at 3 levels, you can check using Taguchi's L8 design, right? All right. Okay. Now I'm going to wind up this session, and I have uploaded all these things to YouTube. Then you can easily access to there, and I will share some. I will share the past papers with your batch rep. And thank you very much for joining and for listening everything. So if you have questions, I am always ready to answer those questions. So I think I have shared some assignments, so you can discuss with your batch rep and give me a date. Basically, I follow the deadlines very tightly, very strictly, right? Very strictly, I follow the deadlines. But in this case, I think I know you are in a very difficult condition, so I can I can give you some extended date. So therefore, you can go through these lectures and revisions, discussions, and you can discuss with your friends and arrange a date for before your exam, so I can help you, right? Okay, thank you very much. Then please contact me for any questions. And
Thank you,
special
sir.
thanks to Vimukti. He has always support me to arrange this lecture, so my special thanks should goes to Vimukti. Okay, thank you very much.